What is up, ladies and gentle nerds? It's your boy Graham, also known as HamHawks42 on the internet, and today we're doing Overthinking MTG. That's right, we're back, baby. After a little break, I have decided to bring the podcast back. And as you can see, new digs, I figured let's get on into it. And so it's Strixhaven spoilers, so of course we need to talk Strixhaven today. It's very important, and there was a card that got spoiled today, which is March 29th, by the way, 2021, for anybody watching in the future. Hello from the world of the past. And today I want to talk about a card that got spoiled. It's an Elder Dragon, which alone right there is worth the price of admission. I mean, come on. They're freaking Elder Dragons. They're great. And that is Velomachus Lorehold. I hope I pronounced that correctly. So Velomachus Lorehold is a 5/5 for 5 red-white. So only 2 individual color pips, but they're in Boros. But it's a 7-drop for a 5/5 Flying Vigilance Haste. That alone isn't a bad rate. For Flying Vigilance and Haste on a 5/5 for 7, that's not terrible. It's a little bit small for a 7-drop, but at the end of the day, that's an okay rate. But wait, there's more. Velomachus Lorehold, whenever Velomachus Lorehold attacks, look at the top 7 cards of your library. You may cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value less than or equal to Velomachus Lorehold's power from among them without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So this is fantastic for a wide variety of reasons. One, I love playing with Perforos the Bronzeblood, and so big red creatures that I can cheat in that do big nasty things when they attack. Awesome. That's fantastic in my books. And then on top of that, it digs through the top 7 cards of your library. That is a huge dig. The amount of stuff you can get access to in that is fantastic. And on top of that, this is in Lorehold's colors, and we've seen a number of really powerful instants and sorceries already from Lorehold, such as Lorehold Command, which is a 5-drop that is exactly the right mana cost for this. Without even having to pump Velomachus, you have an opportunity to cast Lorehold Command right off the top of your library. That's pretty fantastic. And that's just looking at what's going to be standard legal within Strixhaven. There are so many amazing 5-drops, and that's assuming that you don't put some kind of buff on this thing. I mean, in Historic, in Arena, we're going to be seeing cards that, just looking at the Mystical Archive, I believe it's, I may be wrong, but I believe it's been banned in Historic retroactive, or prematurely, not prematurely, what's the, in a preemptive banning, I believe. I could be mistaken on this, but Mind's Desire is coming in the Mystical Archive. Could you imagine putting a Bone Splitter on Velomachus Lorehold, swinging in, and then casting a Mind's Desire off the top? How amazing would that be? That'd be fantastic. And that kind of ability is available with this card. So I think it's fantastic. And on top of that, it has Vigilance, so you get a 5/5 blocker in the mix as well. And it has Haste, so you can do it the turn it comes into play. I think this card is truly fantastic. This looks to me like a commander, like a playable commander, but also good enough that we're going to see some standard fringe play with this. This looks to me very similar to Vorinclex in Kaldheim, which is a card that when you first look at it, you think, okay, in my commander decks, I need as many of these as I can get my hands on, just because if my commander deck has green and anything related to counters, Vorinclex is going to be fantastic, if not just building a whole new Vorinclex deck. So, it's that good. Velomachus looks to me very similar. It looks like it's going to be a card that is just going to become a commander staple overnight, frankly, I think, for in these colors, especially because Boros Commanders is something that the color's been struggling with. Actually, come to think of it, I can see this going alongside Sunforger, which is an equipment that whenever you can detach it to cast spells out of your library. So I could see a Velomachus Sunforger deck, which could do some really impressive things I just realized, okay, this show is unscripted and unedited as always. So I just realized Velomachus Lorehold can pull a Wrath of God from the top 7 cards of your library and pull it into play. That's awesome. Now, granted, Velomachus would die in the process, but at the same time, you still would be wiping the board as long as that board wipe is in the top 7 cards. So if you're behind in a game and you have Velomachus and you can swing and potentially pull a board wipe, you could do some phenomenal things with that. That's just awesome. Like, if it's late in the game and you're behind, that could really swing the game in your favor. Otherwise, at the very least, I mean, the fail case, the worst case scenario is obviously you dig through the top 7 cards of your library and you don't get anything. That would be a huge bummer. But you're digging 7 cards deep. That is a huge number of cards that you're looking at. So the chances are you're going to hit a Thrill of Possibility, a Seize the Spoils, some kind of exile effect, in white. The chances are you're going to hit something. Even if it's a small utility spell, it's still going to be better than nothing. And that's all extra value that you're getting on top of having a 5/5 flying vigilant haste dragon. Which I'm telling you, that alone is pretty fantastic. So this is a mythic card in Strixhaven. And also, fun fact with Velomachus, the quality of the image that I have on screen, if you're watching on YouTube, unfortunately isn't the greatest because we're still early in the spoiler season, so we don't have high def images yet, or at least I don't have access to high def images yet. Working on it. But it's kind of cool. In Velomachus's art, you can actually see he's wearing scrolls, which is very much fitting with the Lorehold mentality of archiving history and studying artifacts of the past. You can see that very much depicted in just the raiment of knowledge that Velomachus has chosen to wear, I think is truly fantastic and a beautiful flavor piece. So not only is he a huge dragon, but he's also a scholar of history, and you can see that depicted in the artwork itself, which is just freaking awesome. And on top of that, you can clearly see the architecture of Strixhaven behind him, and in the foreground, he's perched atop a tower with some kind of bridge extending off of it to give you a sense of scale, and you can see this dragon is enormous, which it should be. It's an elder dragon after all, and elder dragons are generally pretty frickin' big. That's just sort of the nature of the beast, so to speak. Yeah, Velomachus Lorehold, I think this card's going to be truly fantastic. I have a standard Boros deck that I'm going to slot this thing into immediately, and I'm actually going to tune up because, I mean, think about this, though. What happens if Velomachus Lorehold swings, and then you pull, say, Ironcrag Feet off the top? That gives you access to 7 more mana that you could then use to cast another 7-drop dragon of some kind. Those types of synergies are going to be available with this card, and I think we're just scratching the surface. So this is a very expensive card, but it's going to be expensive mana cost wise. I don't know that it's going to be super expensive, at least at first, until the EDH crowd really sees the joy of having this thing. Because even in a 100-card deck, digging 7 deep is still a pretty deep dig. Yeah, I think Velomachus is a phenomenal commander, a bomb in limited, and a playable standard and potentially historic card for slower, more controlling Boros decks. I think there's going to be a place for this, and I'm looking forward to brewing around it. I'm really looking forward to brewing around it. That's why I'm talking about it right now on this podcast. My triumphant return, it had to be about Velomachus Lorehold once I saw this card, because it's just so cool. So thank you so much for hanging out. This has been an absolute delight. Feels great to be back. You can catch me on Twitch, twitch.tv/hamhocks42. The stream has been going uninterrupted, even though the podcast has been taking a little bit of a break. But we are back, baby, and better than ever. Thank you so much for hanging out. I appreciate you. My name is Graham, also known as hamhocks42 on the internet. And don't forget, you're a good person, and you deserve to be happy.